pledge and we'll open the meeting going.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, now I'll turn it over to Tim Tusick.
Well, one thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to pull out the actual original documents. I got the W-9 form too, Steve. So
It's already filled out right here.
Excellent. All right.
Oh, yeah.
Steve will need that.
Just say good.
Okay, so let's get the step in the right direction. Here's that acknowledgement that you're going to need to get taken care of. And then I've got 3 original right-of-way agreements.
Okay.
Does that sound right? Does that work for everybody if we have 3 originals?
No, everybody signing needs a blue ink. Is there anybody that doesn't?
I've got blue. Jason has a crayon.
Should have brought one of the big ones from here. Oh, yeah.
Look at easy.
Thanks.
I hope it's a 10.
It's a 10, I'm throwing it back.
Now what we can do here, do you have the documents that I sent over to you, the copies that were emailed? What I'd like to kind of do is just kind of run through this and just hit a couple of the highlights on it. Obviously you're familiar with the history of how we got to this point with Sunoco, and that there was an agreement back in the 1930s. And that agreement was pretty broad, it was ambiguous, there were issues with it. About a year ago, some of my private clients were being approached on this, and we started to look into it a bit, started to have some conversations with Sunoco. That was before Steve was even anybody that we'd run into yet. And my partner with the oil and gas, Pat Sebastiano, who's another attorney who's done a lot of the oil and gas work with me, we started talking about, because we had leased 6,000 acres during the heyday with all the leasing that was going on. So we had a lot of clients out there who had property that, and it was inevitable that the Sunoco pipeline was going to pass through some of their properties. At that point, everything was kind of on the table regarding where we would end up with this document. We knew that, just from experience working with the gas leases and working on some other pipeline projects, that typically the first offer you see, the first document you see, there's some room to negotiate, but you never know where that's going to go. And where it went with us is having a period of months where we spent a lot of time talking to Sunoco's attorneys, working out some issues, some things that we thought needed to get addressed. For instance, there was that 10-foot reference in the 1930s document. Originally, the position taken by Sunoco was that meant that every line would have to be within 10 feet of the other line, and you could cross a football field with them. We disagreed with that and went back and forth with it, and ultimately ended up in a position. And I will tell you, Steve and his, what do you call Thor, the supervisor maybe? Supervisor worked with us too, in terms of trying to come up with some reasonable solution to all this. And ultimately where we ended up with it was that that we would maintain a corridor, a 10-foot corridor, which we gave that name finally. And on the last day of negotiations, we gave it that name, the 10-foot corridor. And so the pipes need to stay within that corridor. And the rest of the whereases kind of bring you to where we are today before we get to paragraph 1, with the reference to the fact that it's a 12-inch line that's going in to replace a 6-inch line. There's already an 8. Probably one of the most important paragraphs here is paragraph 2, which is the, well, paragraph 1 actually, that sort of...
After now, therefore, are you talking about, Tim?
Give me 1 second here. Let me just check something here because I want to double check one thing on the document.
Don't tell me anything. No.
I just want to double check something, folks. Hang in there with me for 1 minute. Because I'm trying to find something in here that I want to start with. Okay, paragraph 1 lays out where the right-of-way is. And we have an Exhibit A and Exhibit B to kind of nail down the location of that right-of-way. Then what we do is we have the provision in there about the owner's rights. check something here. Steve, let me ask you a question on that. Do you have yours or any reference to it? I just want to double check something that's thrown me a little bit on this.
What?
Any draft of this document even? I just want to make sure of something here.
Well, it didn't take me a minute to find it.
That's okay. I just want to see which one you're working off of. Because my numbering doesn't look right for some reason.
While he's looking for that, can I ask a question?
Give me 1 second, because I just want to see something here with what Steve has.
Oh, I don't know if this is the same one you have.
That's what I'm going to check real quick. Okay, so we did go with that paragraph 1. Okay, with the registered surveyor and... Okay, I just want to double check that. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
And the number 2 on the owner's rights,
Yes.
so if we choose to put in another driveway at some point across the thing, that we're allowed to do so with the exception that we get approval from Sunoco first?
Exactly. Right, and that's not unusual, right, Steve?
No,
Okay.
not at all.
We have a provision in here with 3 about materials and substances being limited. The idea there is if at some point in the future they want to run wastewater through those pipes, then they would have to come back and talk to you again about it. Temporary workspace, there's an explanation of that, and I think you're familiar with temporary workspace. The pipe's got to be buried at least 36 inches below the surface of the ground, unless they run into a situation where it's not possible to bury it that deep. Hopefully you can bury in that area since it is a cemetery. It seems logical.
Are the pipes always going to be contiguous? Are they going to ever be on top of each other? Or they're always going to be separate?
Boy, I'll tell you what, it would be hard to put them on top of each other. I guess if you could get them deep enough, you could, I suppose. But the only problem is I can't imagine any other... There's a lot of other restrictions and other agreements, too, where I think that what would happen is it would be almost impossible to do that because you'd have to run them that way continuously through the entire right-of-way from one end of the county to the other.
But you're saying that they have to stay
That
within
would
the
be
10-foot corridor, though?
That's the idea on this. Hang on for a second. Okay, let's go through the restoration. They have to restore it. Restore the disturbed areas as practical as possible to their pre-existing condition. The taxes, we have a provision in there that if there be an increase in taxes, that would have to be addressed. Drain tiles, any drain tiles that are damaged, they have to repair. Topsoil, this doesn't affect you as much, but they do have to do the double ditch method, especially, for instance, if there was farming. You're receiving compensation for this document, and that compensation is being acknowledged. Steve's going to have a check for you. Other damages, they have to reasonably repair, reasonably compensate the owner for any surface damage to the owner's real personal property. So if they damage anything else outside of the right-of-way, then they're responsible for that. Clearing of the right-of-way, they do have the right to keep the right-of-way clear, which we should all be familiar with. No herbicides, they can't use herbicides or other dangerous chemicals. No appurtenances, they cannot construct any above ground or subsurface appurtenances or other structures. So this means they can't put any valves, meters, tires, rectifiers, anything else in there other than just the pipe. And this was important here on the entrance and exit. The ingress and egress and construction-related activities be limited to the right-of-way and temporary workspace. And during all subsequent construction, altering, preparing, removing, or replacing, once again, they're limited to the right-of-way, not the temporary workspace, and they can't interfere with or intrude upon the cemetery property. They have to give you at least a week's notice of construction. This is just a provision that deals with fencing. If you did have fencing or gating there, they'd have to make sure they replaced it. If they took it down, they'd have to put something temporary up. No storage. They're not going to use this right-of-way to store anything other than when they're actively in construction. We have insurance provisions that go all the way on to the next page that provide that with the insurance that you do have to be named as an additional insured. That's in the very last paragraph here, as an additional insured under the policies required above. Indemnification, there's a provision here where you're held harmless from, if you would get sued for any reason regarding their activities or anything, any of their contractors, would happen to do, you would be protected. Any environmental damage is covered in paragraph 22. Compliance with law. They agree to comply in all material respects with any laws that are out there, so that's part of the agreement. There's a provision here for termination. What we wanted here was if someday, many, many years down the road even, there was an abandonment of these pipelines, we didn't want them just sitting in the ground, for instance, like an old railroad, where you see those old railroad right-of-ways that are there forever. If they just quit using these completely, and this might not happen in our lifetimes, but if they quit using them completely, then we would want to be able to have them removed. It could be assigned to another party. This could end up being BP or Shell's right-of-way sometime. It's binding upon everyone. There's no warranty of title, which means that you're not warranting the title to the property. They're doing their own title search and determining whether or not you own title. There was a provision in here, and I want to make sure it shows up, regarding not interfering with any funeral services.
Yeah, I think it's there.
Is it there?
I read it, yeah.
All right, it's
Yeah.
there.
Yes, sir.
Somewhere. It is
Yeah,
there.
I want to make sure
I
it's there.
did see that too.
They're going to provide you a survey within 120 days of completion and installation of 12-inch pipeline. If anything's invalid or unenforceable, then that's not going to affect the rest of the agreement. Counterparts. This amendment may be executed by owner and grantee until more counterparts will have 3. If there was more than one owner, there'd be a proportionate payment. You can grant additional right-of-ways that don't interfere with this right-of-way. There's no waterway, so that probably doesn't really apply. The governing law, it's going to be subject to and governed according to law of the state of Ohio. Jurisdictions, Court of Common Pleas, Mahoning County, because that's where the right-of-way is. Section headings are just here for helping us find our way. We all contributed equally, both sides, to drafting this, so it's not construed against either party, meaning it won't be interpreted against us or Sunoco. This is the entire agreement. Just because you fail to enforce something doesn't mean you waive it, so there's a waiver in writing requirement. And that the other terms and conditions of the original agreement apply, but any inconsistencies between that and this amendment are ruled on in favor of the amendment. I just want to take a look at the exhibits also.
They're exactly the same as the many ones that we've already received.
A lot of exhibits. How wide is this right-of-way, Steve? Yeah, I just want to look at it. I haven't looked at it for a long time. This is the most narrow of all the right-of-ways. Okay, and that's where I'm trying to get caught up on this, because we look at a lot of these agreements, and I had at my beginning here, I was trying to remember what we did. And because of the fact that we limited this right-of-way to the 30-foot, because most of them are 50. We have a couple that are 40. We don't have any that are 30. We ended up with this exhibit limiting the entire extent of the right-of-way instead of limiting back to that 10-foot again. That's why you don't see the 10-foot in this one, and I couldn't remember why I didn't see it. Because what we did was we put in Exhibit A, it was going to be a 30-foot right-of-way instead of, and that was part of getting this thing negotiated, is the fact it was going to be a 30-foot right-of-way.
Okay, so it's not limited to 10 feet then?
It's not limited to 10, but the entire thing is limited. See, here's the thing. Everybody else's, they got 50 forever, but they have 10 inside. On yours, they only have 30 forever. They don't have 40 or 50.
They had opportunity for 50. They just chose not to take it.
Yes, we did.
So now you've got a 30.
Yeah, so now they have a 30, and that's important too, because I've never seen a 30.
Wow.
Are there any other 30s
There
that you
is.
know of?
Number one.
That's the only one? Yeah.
See, we're unique.
Very.
Probably the only one going right next to a cemetery.
Okay, let me see something else here. So anyway, that's what we have on this. And anybody have any questions regarding it?
Is there any provision in here that allows them to move their 30-foot right-of-way to another area if they would want to move something? Or does it have to stay within, like one of the original deeds said that the 10-foot right-of-way had to stay within 25 foot of the fence line of the cemetery. So the pipeline would always be...
What we did here was we have it dictated by a survey exactly where the location is, and there isn't a provision in here to move it. I'm not familiar with one in here that talks about moving it.
There's not.
Okay.
And it's all defined with the exhibit itself, like Mr. Tusack said.
Yeah, it's totally defined, because this is also the only one that there's a survey on.
Okay.
Because every other one just has a plat map.
There's several.
Are there? Because I've only seen them with...
So it would stay within the survey?
Right,
Yeah,
because everything
it's
is laid out.
defined by the exhibit itself,
Okay.
which is a surveyed document.
So they couldn't go over 50 feet on our property and decide that's where they want the 30-foot right-of-way if they decide to put an angle in the pipe or decide to do something later or do it differently?
No, we
That
can't.
was the question. Okay.
Well, they can if they renegotiate the easement, but
Okay.
based on this easement, they
Yeah,
can't do that.
okay. Thank you.
And it's the same thing as he mentioned for above ground appurtenances. You know, it comes that we have to put something above ground here, we have to come back and negotiate that. We can't just, oh, surprise,
Plop it
stick it
down.
up there. But you will see, of course, the boundary and the emergency markers, those are exempted. Those, by government rule, have to go into the yellow posts that say,
Right.
you know, petroleum pipeline, those will have to go in
Right.
there.
I just didn't want the mower in.
The horses and cows don't like them, I tell you that.
Do we have any other questions about it?
Denny's the one that came in late. We've been over this a
No,
million times.
I've gone over this, and I really want to apologize for the delay on this with the vacation, but she said, I came in on this not really knowing about it, and I've studied this more than I have for a school exam. And I've gone down and talked to Rob and Mike and Pat down at the county, and I'm pretty confident you guys did your work on this. You did a nice job on it.
The only thing I'm going to say on this is, I still don't, there's something I don't like about it as I'm sitting here. And it's kind of an unusual position to be in. I still don't feel that paragraph 1 is exactly what it's supposed to be. And I'm just not ready. I don't know. I'm afraid that what happened here is whoever put this together, when they drafted it, Steve, they used the old paragraph 1. I mean, we got 30 foot, everything is great, but the limitation to the one pipeline's not in here. I mean, maybe you can find it. I can't find it, Steve.
You said paragraph 1,
Yeah, that.
right away?
Yeah, take a look at this. I found this. Take a look at one. I mean, it looks great, folks, but there's still something that's bugging me.
Well, from our end, we're out of time.
What's that?
We're out of time.
No.
We've already started construction.
That's okay. We're signing them next week, too.
You want to take a look at that?
So what's not in there that you want to be included, Tim?
What's not in there, and this is what happens, and I don't have any way to explain it other than it's really hard when you take another document and you try to integrate with a document that you've got. We have a provision that's in our documents that says that there's only going to be one pipeline and there can't be any more. And I was kind of hopeful that we stuck it in someplace else as I was reading through, and I didn't see it. And that's a problem. And I could very easily sit here and say, here, sign this is great. But I couldn't do that because it's not there, Steve. It just never happened. It didn't make its way in. When I think Mark put that together for us, Hall maybe, I think he helped us or somebody helped us, and I did not catch that till as we sat here and read it. And I was hoping it was going to show up later, and it didn't show up. I can come back and get it signed another night, anytime. How much time do we need?
He's our legal counsel, that's who we have to listen to.
I understand that.
We could do it tomorrow night if you need 24 hours notice, whatever.
We
it
have a
takes.
meeting on Monday.
Yeah, we have a meeting on
No,
Monday.
then we could just get it signed with a different paragraph 1.
And you guys can come out. I'll have chicken and biscuits if you want, whatever you want.
You've offered that several times.
And you haven't seen it, have you?
And, hey, it's embarrassing for me because of the fact that it's not there, but I caught it, so what can I say? But too much paper.
What's the date on the check? Is the check still good?
I've actually had to call accounting to verify that it is still good. Because I think the check was actually issued.
Probably, what, December 3rd?
In October 9th.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Well, we'll try.
December, January, February, March, April. Look at that, we're perfect.
Okay, folks, well,
We'll see you on...
So now let me ask you this, aside from that, everybody feels comfortable with the agreement, obviously.
Yeah.
yeah.
Now,
But something happened.
When you're saying one pipeline, but in the whereas where it's saying that the new 12-inch pipeline alongside of the 10-inch pipeline,
The
Right.
10 inch is already there.
okay, so, but you're saying that...
That's implied, but here's what happened. Let me explain what happened. There was a document that you already had that you were going to move forward with. That document had a paragraph 1 in it that basically said that we were going to attach Exhibits A and B, and there was a survey, and that was the extent of it. What we did with our clients was we developed a paragraph 1 that said there was only going to be one pipeline, ever, there was never going to be another pipeline.
Without renegotiation.
Then what happened was, without renegotiation, then what happened was those agreements were combined. We took the agreement that you already had, took the provisions out of it that were significant, put them into this one. For instance, not interfering with funeral services, those sort of things were integrated then into our agreement.
This is the one that we had from December that we actually approved, and yeah, your word for word is
And what
exactly the same
happened
as the
was,
first paragraph.
one was not supposed to make it from the old agreement to the new agreement because we changed one. And even though I've looked at this 100 times, I didn't catch it until I sat here reading it to you tonight. And that's why I like to read through it, because I caught it. And it was never, that one was never supposed to make it over to the new agreement. That was supposed to be the old one. And it wasn't supposed to happen. The survey made it, the not interfering with funeral services, the 30 feet, all of that made it. But what happened, and that was fine, because those provisions were supposed to. This provision was not supposed to make it over. It was supposed to be our one. And, you know, you just get used to doing something, and you miss it. So, I'll be back Monday.
7 o'clock. We'll be here.
See you Monday.
You can have your pen back, sir. I'll bring my own blue. Because this is too big for me.
He likes writing on this skinny ink stuff or whatever.
Good catch.
It was more the toss than the catch.
Okay.
What is?
Yeah, you guys are...
We have a couple other meeting or things on the agenda here we need to take care of.
Thanks, you guys. Thank
I'm
you.
sorry, hey, that's all my fault. It's nobody else's.
I'm not taking any blame for it.
I'm going to look for somebody else to blame.
Thank you. See you Monday.
He's the boss.
Nice to meet you, Mr. Carlson.
Thank you, nice to meet you. I'll see you Monday.
See you Monday.
Okay.
Bye, Tim. Thank you. See you Monday.
See you
It's gotta be right.
Monday.
I can't do it. It's not right.
Yeah.
Glad you caught it.
I kept thinking I was going to find it later.
Hey, you get to
Yeah,
drive
'cause
up to
when I
beautiful
was-
Berlin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'd much rather take another trip out here than not have it exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Good
Thank
to have
you.
Out on this side of the world.
Yeah.
I feel bad for that. I mean,
Should have seen his face. Oh, we're still recording.
Yeah.
I feel bad about that.
We have Monday. We have
Yeah.
Monday. We're
Because you
good.
understand what happened, paragraph
Yeah.
1, that was the old paragraph 1.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't like that paragraph 1. I wanted the new paragraph 1.
Yeah.
I was watching, checking to make sure that non-interference of funeral services and our other provisions made it. I just looked right past paragraph 1.
Okay.
Okay.
It was
All right.
handle it Monday.
Hey, I
Thank
guess what
you.
we're supposed to do is get it right.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
I rarely do that.
Okay.
All right, now on to the Ruma. You can sign it up.
That's good. We've already approved this, right?
Yeah.
So we just have to sign it.
Yes.
And Chris Baranti wants us to fax over, I can do it tonight before I leave, fax over a page, and then
Just the
email.
signature
Just the
page,
signature
right?
page, because I already have the other document, and Angela wants us to fax over the signature page to her too, or email it to her. I can do that when I'm up there, I can scan it and email it to her.
Okay.
We're just,
Why does that document have to be signed in blue ink?
Blue, probably
Blue
the
is legal.
original, so
Oh,
that,
for when
yeah.
they
So you
make,
can,
okay.
Yeah, when they make copies then.
I'm a
it's
notary
black,
now, I know that.
but that's
Yeah.
going away because of scanners. They said that's
Yeah.
supposed to work.
No, see, the documents that I scanned and ran off on my printer, anything that was colored, came off colored.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
And that's what Rick said one time about signing documents, he always signs in blue, so when you do a color copy, you can verify that it's
You
an
may do.
original signature.
Is that a blanket rumor, or we have a road coming under rumor?
That's
No,
with the
With the
county.
county.
Oh, that's
It's-
the blanket one, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if we had when somebody moved in.
No,
No.
we're with them and they're making sure all the
Okay,
provisions
that's
are
what I
made.
thought.
Okay.
Did you have any questions on that?
No,
I don't have to sign
I
it.
read them all over,
Joe's gonna take care of that.
Okay. We're gonna take-
I was hoping it was my road. No, and stop it at my house.
All right. This is for the roof.
Yes. We got the bill today.
Roof,
Recycling
Grant,
barn,
right.
yeah.
And they did have to replace a few sheeting boards underneath, that was the additional
Yeah, so the bill's more than...
150 or whatever
Okay.
it was, about 200 bucks.
do we need to pass that, or?
I thought we already...
Yeah,
Did we?
yeah, we-
Oh, we did,
we-
okay. We did, okay.
Yeah, we voted on that when we got the estimate back,
Okay,
based on the fact that we got that.
okay. And they only want one copy?
Usually there's 9.
Yeah,
I can never understand that when you're...
Recycling division.
Green team is
Yeah, probably, yeah.
recycling, conserving paper.
Okay, do we want to talk about anything else?
Oh, actually, that's the only thing we're allowed to talk about,
Yeah.
so we're good.
Mhm.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Vote yes.
okay.
All right. We're done.